Boru Aboye. This is great verse of Ifa that tells the story of Oromila and how he was going from kingdom to kingdom, solving one problem after another. And he had his students with him. He was apprentices. Every time he would go into his bag, it seems like Oromila was coming out with another kind of power. He could go into his bag and he could help people with money problems. He could go in there and pull out marital problems. He could and solve marital problems. He could go in there and pull out something that would help people, kings, to resolve conflicts in the kingdom and help farmers to have good crops. Oromila was solving all kinds of problems just by going into his bag. And so his students decided that if they could get the bag, then they would have the power and they could do what Oromila does. Okay, so Oromila figured out this scheme of theirs, and he set up a test where he faked his death to see who would be sincere and mourn his death. All of them turned out to be false, except for his friend Eshu, right? And in the process, Oromila and solidified his relationship with Eshu and guaranteed that he would have a special place in all of his work. But that story, in addition to explaining the relationship between Oromila and Eshu, is absolutely perfect for explaining the problem of spiritual materialism that has just taken over Orisha lifestyle nowadays. People are totally convinced, so unfortunate, it's so unfortunate. People are totally convinced that the beads and the pots and the titles and doing the rituals that they see other people doing, just copy, copy, copy. Anything that you see other people doing, you think that's what you have to do in order to be, spiritually fulfilled or to realize your destiny. And it's just as foolish today as it was when Oromila taught that lesson to his students. This is the School of Orisha Studies, and I'm your instructor, Obafemi Origunwa. Today's lesson is on the law of compensation. The law of compensation. What's the law of compensation? The law of compensation is arguably one of the most important but least, articulated and well-defined laws of Orisha lifestyle. When you're in the prenatal state, before you come into the physical form, you have to do certain exercises. You have certain assignments that you have to do in the prenatal state. One of those is you have to dig a pit of losses or a pit of misfortune. Of course, this is not a real pit, right? Because we're talking about the prenatal state. It's a metaphor. This is a metaphor for understanding the consequence of having choice, right? When you choose one thing, you're not choosing something else. When you choose one thing, you also choose everything that goes along with that choice. Okay? Every decision has a world in it. It has certain liabilities. And when you make a decision to do certain things, those liabilities are just going to go with it. You can't escape that. All right? That's what the pit of losses or the pit of misfortune represents. From a metaphysical standpoint, what it means is that there's certain things that you're going to choose as your lot in life, as your destiny, that are going to compromise your integrity. They're going to compromise your wholeness. You're going to have to give up some part of your essence, or you're going to have to, compromise some part of your essence in order to fulfill your destiny on earth. You can't escape it. So what do? When you get to the world, you're going to have to make sacrifices and do different sorts of rituals and ceremonies in order to compensate for the things that you lost based on your prenatal choice. All right. Some people choose something that has a lot of liability. That means they dug a really deep pit. That means they've got to do a lot of work in order to compensate for that choice. It doesn't mean you've got a bad destiny. It doesn't mean that you made a poor choice. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means that you chose something that has a heavy load, And I always tell people a bright light casts a dark shadow. So in many instances, the more brilliant you are, the greater your liability is, right? To whom much is given, much is expected. All right. So all of that exemplifies the law of compensation. You made a choice. It's going to compromise your integrity. There's liabilities included in there. You're going to have to compensate for that. Okay. But in the compensation, you got to compensate for what you chose, not what I chose. Like Orumila's students, even though they were close to him, they were trying to sort of jump the track or speed up the process and go straight to the materials that he had in the hopes that it would make them be able to do what Oromila does. And that's folly. All right, that's folly, and that's what he showed in his lesson by faking his death. Now listen, in order for you to understand what I'm saying, in order for you to appreciate the law of compensation, let me give you a bigger example, right, to put things into focus. You've got right now within, let's just say, Ifa. Ifa is a very deep mystery system. Okay, Ifa is a mystery system. Okay, Ifa is meant to compensate for, in many ways, the practices of Orisha, right? Ifa compensates for Orisha, right? Orisha has its realm. It has its area. It's always tied to the everyday activities of Yoruba life. If you understand the fullness of Orisha, the Orisha, they govern weaving, they govern farming, they govern iron smelting, they govern carving, they govern road making. The Orisha govern all of the engines of Yoruba society and civilization. Ifa is the one who compensates for all of those cultural expressions by helping them to fill in the blanks, helping them to understand the parts that are missing and have to be supplemented in order for their practice to be whole, in order for their practice to help to meld into the flow of destiny. That's what Oromila is, the designated diviner for that reason. That's pretty much what Oromila does. He helps the Orisha compensate. All right. This is a big lesson for you guys. All right. This is a huge lesson. And I'm just dropping on you because I keep seeing it and it needs to be stated and understood. If you can appreciate what I'm telling you, then it's going to help you stay away from that trap of spiritual materialism where you're just trying to get stuff. You're just trying to get stuff. You're just trying to get stuff. Because you're trying to respond to that impulse to compensate, to fulfill yourself so that you can have integrity. At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to have integrity. Integrity means wholeness. It means that it doesn't mean that you're, in this instance, it doesn't mean that you're honest or that you're virtuous. I don't mean integrity like that. Although those are expressions of integrity. What I mean by integrity, I mean wholeness. I mean that you're optimized, that you're taking all of your resources, all of your capabilities, and you're combining them in just the way that they should be, and you're supplementing them with maybe the things that you don't have so that you can be fully functioning, right? You can be optimized. That's integrity, all right? So you want to be whole. That's what the journey of life is all about. Ijolaye, that we call it. The journey of life is about becoming whole. It's about living out your earthly experience in a way that prepares you for your heavenly return, because earth is a marketplace, heaven is our home. We're doing all of this stuff down here to acquire the kinds of skills and the experiences that we need to go back to heaven and have a good report, right? Because like I said, you started off with digging your pit of misfortune or your pit of losses, and then when you go back, you are more whole, hopefully, when you get there, and now you can continue the journey and you go back and forth from heaven and earth over multiple generations until you become whole and your lineage becomes whole, and by extension the planet becomes whole, right? And we bring about the good condition, which is compensation again, right? Where heaven and earth compensate for one another. They balance one another out. One makes the other whole by this constant going of back and forth, back and forth. It's where we got the divinities who are constantly shuttling back and forth between the heavenly and the earthly realm, compensating, compensating, compensating. One supports the other, one draws from the other and feeds the other. It's a process of compensation, the objective of which is to make things whole and to restore integrity in our existence. All right. But if you don't understand that Ifa compensates for Orisha, then you can't appreciate that Orisha compensates for just the general culture, right? The mundane, the people who aren't practicing any form of priesthood. The Orisha lifestyle compensates for the mundane, regular lifestyle, right? They help fill in the blanks, okay? Without Orisha, you would just be a carver. You would just be a weaver. It's Orisha that ties you to Ogun. It's Orisha that ties you to Obalufon. It's Orisha that ties you to Olokun. It's Orisha that allows you to see the deeper implications of your ordinary everyday activities. Okay? And then your dreams compensate for your day-to-day activities. Your dreams are helping you to connect the dots between, okay, I was doing my work today. I was weaving, I was carving, I was sculpting, I was teaching, I was painting, I was doing whatever I do on a day-to-day basis. And then when I dream, the things that I couldn't integrate, the things that I couldn't make sense of and connect to a bigger reality in my day, my dreams will help me compensate for those experiences. And they'll help fill in the dots, right? They'll help fill in the blanks and connect the dots. That's what I want to say. Your dreams will help you connect the dots, right, in your day-to-day experience so that you can connect your day-to-day experience with something bigger. And then when you go back to do your work, your dreams will maybe give you some insight even deeper into your connection to the divinities and so on and so forth. You understand? So compensation, it really begins from the inside. That's the best way for you to grasp it. You got to start from the inside out. Trust me, it takes a lot longer. It's a lot less glamorous, but it's more real and it's richer and it's more sustainable. If you begin on the inside with self-discovery, who are you? Where are you coming from? Really, what did you choose in the beginning? It's going to help you understand what you're compensating for, right? And what it looks like as you achieve higher and higher levels of integrity. And then you can, strategically and deliberately continue to make choices that will connect you and, compensate for the smaller and smaller missing parts, those little nuances in your fulfillment that, will come over time if you're starting from the true beginning. Okay? So there's a lot more that I'd like to say, but I'm going to pause right there, and I want to invite you to continue the conversation with me. Check us out at the School of Orisha Studies at orishalifestyle.com or obafemio.com, and let's see what we can do. Let's see how we can support your journey of fulfillment and restoring your sense of integrity based on your prenatal choice. Aboro aboye, aboshishe.